to the Paint, Rest, Repeat podcast with Ros and
Laura Day, where we chat about our creative lives as artists while keeping it real and a little bit messy.
We're here to inspire creatives just like you to push past those boundaries and make art that you love. Let's dive in. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Paint, Rest, Repeat. This week we have the lovely Lucy Starbuck here. Lucy is a business profit coach and she's going to be chatting with us today about all things money for artists. So we're really excited about having Lucy here today. Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you so much, Ros. Hi, Laura, as well. It's lovely to be here.
We are so thrilled to be diving in with you into this topic because artists and money, do you reckon like they're opposite on the spectrum? What do you think, Lucy?
I feel like, lots of artists feel that way, maybe.
And I think the overall perception is that the two don't necessarily marry up together, and that's been the case for hundreds of years, right? So let's in this one episode of a podcast turn that around.
Loving that. It's good to have goals, Lucy.
Yep.
And I mean, look, to be frank, that's what Laura and I are all about as well, like breaking these myths and breaking these sort of stereotypes or whatever it is and showing people what is actually possible. So thrilled to be diving into this one with you today. So we wanted to know first up, what's your journey? What's the background? What's Lucy's story and why are you doing what you're doing today?
It's a gregreat question and I will try and keep this relatively brief because can talk, as we've just said, before we started recording. So I'm a chartered accountant by trade and I qualified about 15 years ago. But what I find is relatively interesting about me is that I never really intended or set out to be an accountant. I don't believe I'm what you might call like a natural accountant either, but I've made a very successful career on it to date. So I actually qualified in business at university, just a generic business degree, and I went to go and work in a bingo club randomly, and that was just the sign of a 22-year-old who wasn't really sure what she wanted to do, and actually ended up working in an accounting firm after that because I wanted to go and live in London with my friends, and that was as focused as I got. And then after about a year and a half doing admin work in this accounting firm, one of the partners saw something and was like, actually, Luce, have you ever thought about training to become an accountant? And I went, no way in hell do I want to do that. Absolutely not. Looks really boring. And then I got to thinking, I was like, actually, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? How are you going to earn more money if it's not gain another skill, etc.? So I went, do you know what? Let's just go. Let's just do it. And so fast forward 3 years and 15 exams later, I became a chartered accountant and then moved to Australia where I continued on working for that firm. And when I left that particular accounting firm, I moved to Sydney because I went to Melbourne, first of all. And then I spent the last, almost a decade at PepsiCo, where I worked in lots of finance roles, which helped me, rather than I went from standard boring accountant, which I think everyone can imagine, where you just sit and talk about tax and tell people that they've done things wrong and blah, blah, blah. I did that for about 6 years and I wondered why I hated it. And at one point, one of my clients was like, have you been told you have to wear black? Have you been told you have to wear grey every day? That's just how I rolled, probably reflected my mood at the time. But when I went to work for Pepsi, I was working with salespeople, with marketing people, with non-finance people, and actually working through how they can make more money, how they can be more successful, in their particular customer. And I was like, this is the stuff that I love to do. Okay, this is good. But then I spent quite a long time there, went up through the ranks, and got a little bit over big corporate. When you really start, get a bit older and you figure out what your values actually are, and you work through where they might be misaligned. I definitely felt like I was working, all the hours. I crave connection. I crave joy. I crave integrity, to an extent as well. Well, not to an extent, that's my highest value. And I felt to an extent that it wasn't necessarily always being met. And so I actually made the move to leave big corporate, and classic me, wasn't overly sure what I was going to do. So I moved into the smaller businesses. I was like, let's just try something a bit different. And I went to go and work for a mental health charity called Waves of Wellness, as their CFO, and also just did some contracting work for a time while I figured it out. But the biggest thing for me that I realized when I went to go and work in small business is just the perception of finance, the CFO role, the accountant role in finance in small business. They're just like, you go and sit over there and just tell me what I need to do. I'm not going to be interested in this. I just want to make sure I'm not breaking any rules. And so I started to realize, I'm like, there is so much gold like left in business, like that's untapped, should I say, by actually not understanding your numbers and not understanding what it is you need to do, and not understanding how to make decisions that can actually grow your profit and grow your cash, etc. So this is how my business was born, very kind of organically, where I realized there's such a need. Yeah, you've got your accountants, but they do your transactional stuff and they're brilliant at doing that. And as I always tell people, I'm not a tax accountant. I chose not to learn the extra stuff that you need to do tax return. Doesn't interest me. And so lots of accountants do that stuff, but they don't necessarily sit and coach you like, okay, here's your profit and loss. Here's what you need to understand, etc. So this is effectively what I am doing in the form of either one-to-one coaches, courses, programs, to go, do you know what? You deserve to know. You deserve to make it feel easy. You deserve to actually go from I'm not a numbers person to, oh shit, okay, it's not that hard. Like, I get it. Okay. And that's effectively the sweet spot that I have set up in my business. And it's how I've kind of got to where I am today, and why I'm talking to you lovely ladies.
I think it's amazing what you're
I just
doing.
love that. Yeah.
Go, Laura.
So do I.
We're both a bit, like,
I know,
this is
we're
like, this
both
is
so
the zone.
excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, it totally is. First of all, I just want to say I love that you talked about values up the top there when you were like figuring out your business and like stepped into this and you're like, I want to be in alignment and I want to be in integrity. But then I also love that you've like seen this gap for small business and like how you can make it easy. And you know, looking at your numbers and looking at your profit and loss and all of those things to grow and expand your business is so important as like a solo business owner. And it's, you know, it's not going to come to you by magic. Like you actually have to look at it and actually have to like plan and strategize, and having someone like you and having a business that like helps to look at that rather than like you were saying, like a regular accountant or a tax accountant, like that's a totally different role to someone that's going to help look at your business from the inside out and figure out ways that you can like strategize and price your services properly. Sorry, Ros, I did interrupt you there. Did you have
it's fine. I'm the interrupter.
a question?
Oh no,
Yeah.
I was just going to share, how important I think your role is there, Lucy. Like you're filling a gap in the market, yes, but to just give you a little bit of perspective through my journey as well. Like I used to be not amazing with numbers, and I'll be full personal share. My brother, like very, very gifted, like amazing at maths. And so I would always go to him, but he wouldn't have the patience to take me through things. And then he'd shut me down. And then for me, I just internalized that thinking that I'm not good with numbers. Shut down. That's it. So that's it. My name's Ros. I'm not good with numbers. And so having someone like you to come into the world to help these people to gently unpack that and to show them it's actually not that hard. You can actually cope with this. You can manage this is really, really important. And yeah, so good on you for finding that spot in the market and for helping people in small business to get amongst those numbers, find that clarity, stop being afraid of them, and then grow through having that knowledge. That's amazing.
Thank you. And I completely agree. And also, no one's expecting any business owner to suddenly become the level of a trained accountant. But the one thing I talk about a lot is that, and it's stuff that I steal from corporate, and I steal it from the big boys, right? The CEO of every business, even if they have a fully capable CFO in their business, usually reporting to them, still needs to understand the numbers. They don't get away with being like, oh, I've got a CFO. So any small business owner can't get away with just going, I've got an accountant, because the person that cares about your business the most is you. And you can't pay an accountant to be like, tell me everything, explain everything. Like there are excellent accountants out there that do care. I understand that, but you are going to be the person that needs to just be able to look at your numbers in a stress-free way. And that is entirely possible. And even if you just get, up to the next level, you don't need to be, all over it perfect, but just building your confidence bit by bit will go a huge way to growing your profit.
What do you think our listeners need in order to open their mind to learning? Because sometimes it's that first step. It's that first step into going, actually, you know what? I'm ready to learn about this. I wonder what they need to just shift into that gear.
Well, I think the first thing is awareness that something like this does exist. And I was talking to someone last week who has had businesses, and she's about to start another couple more. And she was like, so I've got my accountant, and I I go there and I kind of understand what he says, but he does the stuff and that's what I need him to do. She's like, do I need like a financial advisor or what? And no, because a financial advisor is if you've got, hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting in the bank account and you want to invest, or less than that, but you know what I mean? And I was like, no, it's me. So the awareness of knowing that there actually is somewhere to go, and actually what kind of thing you're looking for, which is actually education. It's not someone doing your BAS return or doing your bookkeeping. And so the first thing is understanding, like knowing what you don't know as well, like knowing about, just learning and educating yourself about bookkeeping, about when do I do my tax return? What is a BAS return? Should I be registered for GST or not? Rather than, this is too hard, I'm assuming my accountant will tell me when I get there. And I've seen cases of, oh no, you should have registered for GST 6 months ago. Did you not know? And, oh, you owe $20,000 on your BAS return next week. Oh, I assumed you knew. Like I've seen all of that stuff. And so this is about equipping and empowering specifically female business owners with, this is what I need to know up front. So leaning in, I think, and finding, I always try and do this in a fun way, and being able to connect, I think, with the creativity and actually making it fun and creating like little businesses that are actually quite fun. I'm doing a program at the moment called Magic by Numbers, which educates people on their P&L. I've created a magic shop to use, as the business, where we talk revenue and we talk cost and whatnot. So just knowing it's available, I think, is the first step, and actually knowing that, no one's asking you to become a trained accountant. We just want you to get to the point, and actually it's all for you, because it's almost like I was saying this yesterday, it's almost like when you learn how to read your profit and loss, it's literally like finding money down the side of a sofa. Like there is spare money in there that you can't see if you don't know how to read it. And it's literally like you squeeze this bit here and profit drops out. You squeeze this bit here and profit drops out. So so understanding as well why it's important, and that small business isn't just about filing your tax return on time and paying as minimal tax as possible.
And yes, this all applies to artists as well.
Yes, definitely. More so. Yeah.
But it's the thing, isn't it? Because sometimes talking about a profit and loss, like I was saying at the start, it sort of sounds like a totally different world to an artist. But actually, if we're talking about artists with businesses that actually make money, like artists who are making a living from their art, we are talking about small business, and we are talking about profit and loss, as icky as it sounds.
Yeah, we are. And actually, the one thing as well, that the profit and loss kind of in my teachings, it's a load of numbers on a page, right, which give most people the ick, never mind artists. I'm sure they're just like, this is way too formal for me, I don't want to see this, thanks so much. But it's actually the output of all of the strategies that you have in place. And so it's like, you can look at it as numbers, or you can look at it as, this is the output of everything that I've done in the last month. And that number's not as high as I'd like it to be, so why is that? And then you actually go to look at okay, depending on, you know, what kind of revenue stream you're talking about, do I need to amplify this more, or do I need to increase my prices? Or there's things that are not numbers related that you can do. So, but it's about being able to just understand that in a profit and loss, and not just being overwhelmed that it's just loads of numbers that you don't understand. So breaking it down, I think, will be the first thing as well.
It's an amazing structure to help you in your business, because like you're looking at the numbers and the profit and loss, and like having someone like you to help like understand that and educate artists on doing that. Because like we just create arbitrary numbers for pricing our work, but there could be some strategy to like that in a way, because we could be looking at price of materials and ways to cut costs or increasing prices. And that would be like, if you've been in business for a few years and you've had the same prices for your workshops or for your original artworks or for your prints or whatever revenue stream you have in your business, or even thinking about implementing like a new one, like if you've got a bit of extra time and you want to do some mentoring, like maybe coming to you and just listing out all the different things that you've got going on, and then looking at it from that mindset and from that strategy set could be really useful. Yeah, do you think that would be helpful for artists in terms of like pricing strategy
Yeah.
to look at it the other way?
100%. I was literally doing this with a group of my clients yesterday, and we worked through break-even analysis. And so you've got your pricing at the top, and then you've got everything it costs you to deliver. Let's say it is, you know, a piece of art. So what am I charging for my piece of art? And actually, what is it costing me, including the hours that I'm putting in? So allocate myself, make it arbitrary if you want, but is it $50 an hour? Is it $30 an hour? Is it $100 an hour? Like, give yourself a value and add that in as well. And then you can, at least you've got it in front of you and you're like, is that all I'm really making from this art? And then you choose. So you choose whether you can increase your prices, you choose whether you negotiate better deals with your suppliers, you choose whether it might be worth your while to actually order in bulk, like whatever it might be, and have those conversations. So you could start to like expand. So like expansiveness comes with increasing pricing, actually going, actually my art is worth so much more than this, what am I doing? And then you could start to make calls around, okay, actually I know I'm ordering from this supplier a lot, so there's a conversation I need to be having to get the cost down here. But that's exactly what I was doing yesterday. And it's not easy. You don't just understand it from the outset. And excuse my language, but one of them was like, this is a mind fuck. But it's like, cool, practice. Like just do one piece of art, right? Practice. And so much of the time we're making assumptions. Do I pay myself $30 an hour, 50 or 100? You just shove a number in there and see how it feels as well. That's another thing. This is like a structure to actually help you understand how you want your business to make you feel. And that is always going to be the best thing that we as female business owners have, is that we use the masculine structure and we go for it. That's what the profit and loss does there. But we also need to have the flexibility to be kind of creative and with how we actually want our business to make us feel, because we are feminine and therefore we feel more than we are logical, which is one of the reasons we shy away from numbers, but is also one of the reasons, and the way I teach is going, right, leverage the structure where we need it, but allow yourself the creativity. Like everyone's like, what should it be? What should my gross profit be? What should my net profit be? It's whatever you want, it's your business, but it's allowed to be higher than it is now.
I catch myself often saying that we need to apply our creativity beyond just our art practice, but also to our business and also to the numbers as well. Like having a profit plan, for example, in my business, I just absolutely love like tweaking things. If I sold more, you know, large originals or more of, you know, something else in my business, like what could that business look like? It's just, I don't know, it can actually be fun playing with that sort of profit planning.
So one of my first ever clients that I had was, we worked together on a forecast for her business, so like projection. And so she told me what, she had a few revenue streams, and she was like, oh, I normally sell this and it's this price, blah, blah, blah. We, when I completed this forecast, her revenue number was X and her profit number was Y. And she was like, oh, is that all? And I was like, right then, let's go. And that's where the creativity comes in. It's like, okay, so what actually do you want to deliver? What do you want? And she increased her prices and actually increased them in the market too. She didn't see any decline in sales, so therefore her overall revenue was higher. And she was able to, so by the time we finished her projection, it allowed her to dream, and she tripled her forecasted revenue by going, actually, if I do this and this and this. So it's really powerful to allow yourself to be creative and actually understand that numbers are creative, aside from paying GST, paying tax. Like, that's just stuff that needs to get done. The rest of it is actually just super fun.
So I did an assessment a couple of weeks ago for ADHD, and in the assessment, I had to do this maths. I had to do maths things, and I was like, she just gave me all these hard mathematical things, and I'm sitting there going, yeah, 51, 70, like, doing some weird wacky maths in my head. And I gave her the answer. I said, look, not sure if it's right. I do some weird maths in my head, like it's ultra creative. And she goes, well, creativity is working for you, because apparently I gave her all the right numbers. So yes,
amazing.
Maths can be creative.
Yeah. And that's actually, do you know what, like, that's you trusting yourself as well and being like, man, I gave it a go. And what I see is a lot of people just don't trust themselves because they've already told themselves they can't do something, or they're bad at numbers and what have you. And it's like, you can't actually go wrong with your like profit and loss, with your projecting your business out. You can't go too wrong. So I think that's a really interesting point too.
Definitely.
Talking about the bad at numbers things, can we wind it back a bit? I know I used to have a story like running through my mind because I was creative at school, and I hated maths. So I come into business, I hate maths. I'm not good at maths. And I had like this narrative around it, and I had to learn some tough lessons along the way because you can't ignore it. So maybe if we wind it back, I'm thinking about the artists that are listening that are like in the very, very early stages of setting up their business. What would you do and suggestions for like getting started with their record keeping and their numbers and things like that, just from basics start point?
Yeah, great question. So the basic thing is like, get started with your bookkeeping immediately. So the minute you spend your first expense in your business, and like, even if you're like, well, I haven't earned any money yet, or when it's a real business, I'll start tracking my costs. It's a real business. The minute you've spent your first thing, whether it's a paintbrush or a canvas or something, it's a business expense. And so you need to be starting to track it. The key thing to note is that all bookkeeping really is just, actually, before I say this, I'm going to say one thing: open a separate bank account for your business, for God's sake.
Please.
The one thing,
Yes.
the one thing I can say is
Please.
just do that first of all. Yeah. And I see this time and time again. It doesn't cost any money to open a bank account. Just make it a separate one attached to your personal account if you need be, right? It doesn't need to be a whole new bank, but just make sure all of your expenses and all of your business income just go through there. And the sooner you can practice that from day one, the better. And if you're like, I don't earn any money, so how do I pay expenses? Just honestly transfer $200 from your personal to your business, and just keep that quite clean as well. And then you can bookkeep that as necessary. So, and then you're tracking how much you're actually spending in your business. So that is, I guess, a piece of advice number one. And I can't stress how important that is, because I see this time and time again too. And it makes bookkeeping a nightmare, even for someone who knows how to bookkeep. And if you're not experienced in bookkeeping and you're going, oh no, that was my grocery shopping and that was my actual business shopping, no, just don't. And then, so what I was going to say is all bookkeeping is going through your business bank statement and going, oh, that was me selling a piece of work. It came in on the 13th of May. That was me buying some art supplies that went out on the 12th of May. And so it's literally just making sure that you can allocate it to a certain account in your profit and loss. That was income, that was art supplies. There's a bank fee here of 10 cents, bank fees, like just what expenses and income is your business incurring and earning, so that you, one, have got a very neat, summary of your business for your tax accountant at the year end. And obviously we're approaching year end very fast now. And I always say, do your bookkeeping every week. And so sometimes I get a pushback of, but there's not a lot going through my business. Well, brilliant. It'll take you 10 minutes then. If you've got 3 transactions to reconcile, that might take you 5 minutes. So, but just keep it going, because trying to remember what you spent a month ago is going to be really painful. And that's when it starts to get a bad name, because you're like, oh, this is horrible. I hate bookkeeping. But if it was like, yesterday I did this, just track it. So some people create their own Excel templates. I have one in one of the courses, which I'm sure I'll talk about later, that actually is very straightforward. And you just put the date, what it was, where you purchased it, and the amount, which is obviously very critical. Because for me, yes, you do a summary for your tax accountant, but the most important part about bookkeeping is getting your profit and loss. So you can start to say, and for the first little while, your business may well be making losses every single month because you're building it. That's everyone's heard, it's very normal, it's okay. But starting to understand that, and then you make your first sale, you're like, oh, I broke even this month. And that's where it's meaningful to you, right? So open a business bank account and start tracking immediately. There will be templates online that you can use. You can create your own if you like playing in Excel, that's fine. You can also invest in accounting software, but to be honest, if you're right at the start of your journey, I wouldn't, because it's going to be a $50, $60 a month investment that I would say your money's better spent elsewhere, creating your art type thing.
Yeah. Amazing. I started off my business. I did a small business course, so I did start off on the Excel spreadsheet. But I'm recently, in the last few years, I wanted to make my bookkeeping more easeful, because I was one of these people that would leave it for months and months, and then I couldn't remember my expenses, and I was like, "What did I do 3 months ago? Like, what is this random expense?" And I couldn't allocate it. So I really made it a goal to educate myself, and I'm in Xero now, and I am in every week, and it feels so good. I actually enjoy it. I love clicking the reconcile thing, and I think it's about that confidence building. It's about when you have a desire to like get better at something, yeah, it's sort of a little bit of like a dopamine hit after a bit of time, because you're like, oh, I had this story that I wasn't good, and then now I can like reinforce, and like it actually feels good that I'm on top of things, and like I know tax year is going to be a breeze, whereas it was stressful, and it's sort of like an unnecessary stress. Do you think like people like small business owners like put themselves under this unnecessary stress because
one of my biggest
they have a
things
story
is
around.
And I've definitely seen clients with 700 and something unreconciled transactions in Xero, which means they're going to have to sit and spend hours reconciling something. Whereas if you do it weekly, you might have 10 or 20. So the thing that I notice when people sit down and do bookkeeping, it gets tiring quite quickly. So that's why doing it in short bursts means that you can do it and you can be thoughtful about what you're actually allocating where. Because I've seen it happen so much, where if someone's doing it for like 2 hours straight, they get lazy. Oh, I'm just going to put it to general expenses. I can't remember what that was, so I'm just going to put it to like other or something. That does not give you information you need to run a business. You just like, oh, shove that to bank fees. It's human nature. You just get lazy, which is why doing it little and often. But you're so right about the dopamine hit. And I love Xero, not affiliated with it at all. I think it's fabulous because it gamifies it. It brings in every one of your bank transactions, and if it's green, you can click OK, and you got to check it, obviously. But it's brilliant. And then what I do as soon as I've done my bookkeeping is then click to my profit and loss. I'm like, how much money have I made? And that could just be me, but like you're like, great, okay, cool. Where am I at for the month? Like, where was I at last month? This like, I love to see that. Or like, have I made a profit this month yet, kind of thing. So, or what else do I need to do? Is it what I thought I would do this month, etc. So I always finish my bookkeeping and then click straight on my profit and loss and like see where I'm at. So yes, absolutely. You can, yeah. So I love the fact you can get dopamine hits from doing your numbers. Like, can we just like take that away?
So I don't use Xero, but for another part of my business, I use Asana, which is like an organization tool. And yeah, whenever you tick something off, it has like a flying unicorn across the screen. I'm like, oh yeah,
Oh,
love that. I
wow.
love that. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, the gamification of all these like, you know, boring inverted commas tasks is really helpful.
Totally. I reckon without the unicorns, wouldn't have signed up. Just saying.
That's really funny.
Oh, maybe that's a gap in the market. Like maybe there needs to be a flying unicorn like bookkeeping thing.
Oh, maybe. Oh, hang
That
on.
would make it totally
Have we just come up with a
fun.
creative business idea?
Oh,
Collaboration,
need to find like a
guys.
programmer. Lucy, this is your thing. Gamify it all.
Now, as you were talking about accounts before, I'd love to sort of connect what you were suggesting to the whole profit first model, because you said set up a separate bank account, and I'm sitting there going, what, aren't we meant to have 5 separate bank accounts? So some of our listeners might have never heard about profit first. I'd love to know maybe like a rundown from you on what it is, but also your take on it, because you know, we're talking about creativity here. Like you can sort of spin it your own way. But yeah, would you like to explain that a little bit to our people?
Yeah, sure. And I think I'll caveat this with, I'm not a profit first professional, but I have read the book and I am an accountant, and therefore and I always have opinions about things. So profit first, I think, is brilliant, actually. And I think, again, if you're starting out, it's a really excellent tool to be able to help you manage your cash flow. So that's the biggest thing. And so, as you know, you've all heard the metrics around X number of small businesses only don't survive X number of small businesses don't survive the first 3 years because they run out of cash. So cash is king, of course, right? Can you pay your invoices, etc. Profit first really helps to deal with this problem by using, and it is 5 bank accounts, one for your income. So everything, every time your invoices get paid, they go into this one bank account, and then twice a month you actually distribute the cash into separate bank accounts. So there'll be one for your operating expenses, one for your tax bills, one for profit, and one for owner's compensation. And so the entire premise of this, which I absolutely love because it goes back to the dopamine thing as well, is that you're always transferring something to owner's compensation. And what is that? That is the stuff that you pay yourself. So, oh my God, I can work so hard in my business and I feel like there's nothing left for me. This system makes sure that there is something left for you. It's like the first thing that you do, you pay yourself first. So that's why I love it so much. And I actually operate this in my own business to support my cash flow as well. And then the next thing that it does is actually says, okay, I'm also going to allocate this amount to profits. And so what do we do with profits? We might pay ourselves again using the profit if we want to, or we reinvest it into our business. We buy some materials, we might purchase some coaching, join a membership, join a mastermind, that kind of thing. So something that will support the growth of our business. And so this actually makes sure you get paid and that your business gets paid too. It's amazing. Tax, really, you don't have a massive amount of leeway in how much you're going to be paying in your tax. But what always happens is that when it comes to paying your VAT return or your tax return or your quarterly tax installments, you've got no cash left because you used it to just, you know, operate your business. So this really takes the cash away and puts it in that tax bank account. And there is no better feeling than when your tax bill comes and you can just pay it. Oh my God, the best, because there's no worse feeling than when you can't. And then what's left, and this is what I love about this as well, because I teach, you know, smart decision making, and I teach us business owners to be able to make really smart decisions that grow profit. And so really what number is left, what the cash that is left, is your operating expenses. So this is where you start to have to make really hard decisions around, you've only got a certain amount of operating expense cash left after you've paid yourself, you've paid your tax, and you've paid your business. So now what are you going to prioritize? And there's something to be said for, you know, people don't like to feel lack or scarcity, etc. But I would actually challenge that. I'm not coming from a place of lack or scarcity. I'm coming from a place of abundance, because there is something beautiful when you've only got a finite amount of something and you have to make a decision, and the innovation that comes from it. So actually, how freaking good is this? And what fun story it would be. I had $500 to spend and I didn't know what I was going to do. So this is what I made, and I made it happen, and I earned $5,000. Like, you don't know what can come of it until you try. So that's the basic premise of Profit First. And the book is brilliant to teach you like what kind of percentages you should be starting with. Okay, do I pay myself 10% or 20% or 5%? And then kind of working through what the percentage is and what you would like it to be in the future, and working towards that. Because similar to kind of my education piece, you don't need to be an expert now, but let's work towards it. Same as Profit First, you don't need to be paying yourself bazillions now, but know what you want it to be. And for every dollar that you're earning in income, know what your goal is for how much you actually want to take from that, and work towards it.
What I love the most out of that is that you pay yourself first, because that's respecting yourself. And it's also busting that whole starving artist myth. Like, this is the whole purpose. Once you move into making a business out of your art, the whole purpose is to start paying yourself. And so you might start paying yourself a small amount. You tell me, Lucy, if you disagree with what I'm saying, the small amount, but it's still something. And it's still getting you into that habit of realizing, I am paying myself. How can our artists sort of set that up right from the get-go, when perhaps they might be still making transfers from their personal funding into their bank account for their business? Can they still be paying themselves in the very early days to just be getting into that routine, or is that a bad idea?
So there's definitely no right answer. What I would say though is, well, first of all, you know, when we said set up one bank account, go and set up 5 now. Let me just contradict myself completely. So go and set up 5. They're all free, so it's all good. So I will contradict myself in the space of one podcast episode, which I love to do anyway, so that's fine. But what I will say is that the Profit First principles are based on your income. So if you are bringing in income, $100, $50, definitely allocate yourself some of that. Whether is it $2, is it 10, is it 20? It doesn't matter, because energetically, when you're putting money into that bank account, that's what matters. And it goes back to your point, Ros, around respecting yourself. And actually, this business isn't designed for you to be a slave to it. This business is designed for you to make impact. And actually, if it can pay you, it's a separate entity to you, don't forget. Like, whether you're a sole trader or a company, you should be treating this business like a separate entity, because your self-worth isn't attached to this business, etc. So it should be paying you back as well. So if you are making income, definitely allocate a portion to it. If you are transferring money from your personal account into your business account, don't put any of that into, I would not put any of that into owner's comp, because you're just robbing Peter to pay Paul. But any kind of income, $10, $20, whatever it is, put some of that into your owner's comp, because that will get you into the habit of doing it, and that will allow you to get that dopamine hit as soon as possible early on in your business. And to feel positive about your business early on is an amazing feeling.
The other place where Profit First differs to your plan, and I like your plan better, is Profit First, I think he suggests doing your bookkeeping and things like that twice a month, but you're saying weekly. I think weekly is such a better system. What do you do, Laura, in your business?
I do it when it comes through, because I invoice every fortnight, and then a chunk of money will come in. So when the transactions come in and I get paid, that's when I put out to my little accounts. But I do it slightly different. The rebel in me is like, this way works better for me. So I don't have 5 accounts, but I do it in a different way. But I do have my profit account. I've got my tax account. And then the owner's comp. I call it daily abundance.
Love it.
So that's when I pay myself first. Like, that's where it goes into. So but it was really transformational learning that process, reading that book, and then it actually made it fun. So it helped me like, yeah, write that story about, it being hard and managing money's difficult and I'm not good at it. Yeah.
So, Lucy, you also have, in terms of education, so we obviously recommend this Profit First book and all of that jazz, but you also have courses as well. And I know you've got one, I've just written down the name, sorry, my brain remembers, called Finance Fix as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you cover in the course?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, this one is a digital course aimed at people just starting out in business. So what do you need to know about finance? A bit like your starter kit. So it's called the Finance Fix, and it talks through, there's 4 modules, but the entire course is less than 3 hours long, because I'm very aware people don't want to sit and listen to me drone on for like 9 hours about GST and various things. So
we do like your accent though, Lucy.
This is handy. I know I haven't lost any of it in like 13 years in Australia, but I don't
it's
really
because
mind.
you're
It's
living
fine.
in Bondi, Lucy. Just so
It's true, yeah, just with all the Brits. So yeah, there's nothing else. So the Finance Fix is actually very cool, if I say so myself. So the first module is around setting up your business. So it talks around how many bank accounts do you need, which we've answered. It talks around, should I be a sole trader or a limited company? And really just introduces the concept of like, did you even know the 2 things existed? And at what point would you need to be a company versus a sole trader? So the key things to consider. Then it talks around GST and when do I need to register for GST and the pros and cons of doing so, because you can actually register before you hit the threshold if you'd like, and there's benefits to doing that. Obviously pros and cons, so it talks around that. So what it does, even if you're just at the start of your journey, it gets you thinking about stuff that you will need to know in the future, rather than like, oh, I had no idea. So that's module number 1. Module number 2 talks around, when will I need accounting software, if I will need accounting software. And that also gives you a template. If you're not ready for Xero or anything like that yet, then there's an Excel template that I just give as part of the course, a bit of a bonus, where you can do your bookkeeping, and it creates a P&L for you as well. So you can kind of see that from day 1, which is brilliant because it gets people into the habit of actually looking at their profit and loss and not just doing bookkeeping for bookkeeping's sake, which is where it gets boring, right? And people just leave it. Like, oh, I'm doing it for my tax accountant, not for me. So, and then we talk around in module 3. So I call the weekly bookkeeping session, I call it the cash bash, and we turn it into a party, and I take everyone through, this is exactly how you do your bookkeeping, and we make it fun, and we make it like how you want to do it, how you basically get that dopamine hit at the same time as doing your bookkeeping. And then I also introduced something called the profit party. So there's 2 parties, one weekly, your cash bash, and one monthly, your profit party, which is where you start, the very start of looking at your profit and loss. How much revenue did I make versus last month? And how much profit did I make versus last month? So really straightforward, but just gets you in the habit of going, oh, I know why I made more money now or less money. And I know why I made more profit or less profit. So and I give you a template, questions to ask yourself. So getting to the cadence. And then module 4 is how to do your BAS return in 5 minutes. Because we all like, what the friggin' hell is a BAS return? I hate it. So I'm like, it's actually quite straightforward. So you can do it if you do your bookkeeping right. And also things to ask your freaking accountant. Rather than go in there and have them tell you what that you need to know, it's like actual questions to ask them, so that you walk in like an empowered business owner, and because they are working for you, right? And so often we go in like, oh, tell me what I need to know. But this actually gives you things to ask your accountant too. So it's, I think, a very fun course, very cool. And often I do live Q&As as well. So when people, at certain intervals, so when people purchase it, there is then opportunity for me to do a live Q&A and join the call and learn from everyone else as well.
That sounds amazing. My husband's in the background doing the dishes, so I'm going to mute. Good husband.
I love that you've called it, you've got some parties going on and how you're making finance fun. That's absolutely incredible. So one-on-one, so this is a course, so I'm assuming it's a group course, and then also one-on-one services as well.
Yeah,
Is
so I
that
actually
what you
have 3 like course program vibes, because I actually operate on this like 3-level approach, which the Finance Fix covers out level 1, which is because I think the reason why this service isn't necessarily offered, and the reason I noticed this massive gap in the market, is it's actually quite hard to coach business owners who have all these different skills and experiences when it comes to finance. So some people might be like, fuck knows what I'm talking about when it comes to bookkeeping, I'd rather stay away. And some people are like, nah, I'm pretty good. I love Excel. I look at my P&L every single month. I project my business out. I'm good, right? But again, there's always more to learn. So I've divided everybody into 3. And the first is the beginner level, right? Don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what on earth GST is, and I'd rather just avoid it. Thanks so much. I don't have accounting software. Do I need it? I'm scared. And that's what the Finance Fix does. It answers those questions. Then level 2, which is I'm actually running at the moment, called Magic by Numbers, which is pulling the magic out of your profit and loss. So even if you have a bookkeeper do all your bookkeeping for you, they give you a profit and loss at the end of the month, and you're like, right, great. Like, I don't know what to do with it. So this really talks to and breaks the profit and loss down. And this is where I've created like Lucy's Magic Shop, and we kind of go in and we talk about my revenue streams, and we talk about the costs associated, and we talk about this is the kind of decisions that will make you more profit. And actually it's over 5 weeks, and we just talk through gross profit, operating profit, and it promise it's more fun than it sounds, but it's that kind of, and we weave in like the energetics through it as well, because it's so important, especially for female business owners, just want to feel good about this. So that's Magic by Numbers. And then my newest one is called To the Moon, and that's for level 3, and that's for people who are across their profit and loss, have maybe graduated from Magic by Numbers, but now want to project growth. This is where the creativity comes in. Where do you want your business to grow, to go and grow? And how do you do it in numbers, right? How do I know how much this is going to cost me? How do I know how much I'm going to earn for this? Like, or how much am I going to earn if I put the pricing up, down, tweak it a bit? So it's a course around how to actually project out massive growth in your business and set a strategy. So they're the 3 courses, programs that I have. The last 2 are run live, but the Finance Fix is an evergreen that you can purchase anytime. And then one-to-one, I have limited one-to-one spaces, just because I also have a job. And so at this point in time, I'm head of finance in a company as well. So I have, very, very limited one-to-one spaces. And I work through kind of helping specific clients with their P&L, understanding how they could make more money, what decisions that they've made here, how to negotiate out of certain like agreements they've made, because this would make them X more profit. So we have monthly calls, and then we chat on a messaging app twice a week, and they'll always just ask me random finance questions, and I'll just get to it. And they're not always finance their business too, so because it's one and the same. So yeah, lots going on. It's fun.
Absolutely awesome, Lucy. Thank you so much for sharing all your offers, and also just chatting with us today about the practicalities as well as the mindset piece as well for artists who are building their profit and building their small business into something that's actually sustainable and rewarding and fulfilling as well. So where are you on socials if people would like to come and find out more about you?
So I mainly hang out on Instagram, and it's at lucystarbuck.co. So yeah, definitely come and follow me along there. Send me a DM if you want to chat. Always happy to chat to anybody. But yeah, that's my main place. I also have a website. You can purchase the Finance Fix, which is my evergreen course, or send me a message if you're interested in any of the other programs. And that is www.lucystarbuck.co.
Fantastic. Thank you. Now, to our beautiful listeners here today, if you have not left us a review yet, please go and do that over on Apple Podcasts, or if you're listening on Spotify or somewhere else, leave us a star review. 5 stars for good karma, right, Laura?
Yep.
That would be amazing. That helps us to reach more artists just like you and help them on their journey as well. So thanks again so much, Lucy. Legend, and we'll catch you soon.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And you're doing such amazing work for the artist population as well. So it's a pleasure to be on here.
Oh, don't make us blush.
I know. That's so sweet.